Good morning, community. On behalf of the Rescuing Our Communities podcast, I am Clayton here with a special broadcast. This broadcast actually doesn't have anything to do with domestic violence today, audience. I'm just trying to make sure that my settings are good. This audience is in honor of my late mother, a woman of incredible character and amazing impeccability, and a woman of incredible character. Excuse me. She was just a great person, people. And in honor of Mother's Day, which is in 7 days, this broadcast is in honor of my mother, a former pastor of Staten Island, New York, who she did a lot for her community, people. She did a lot for her community who I feel in the end didn't do anything for her. And this broadcast today is specially tailored and aimed at her church, her former church, which is Stapleton UAME Church. Now, for those of you who don't know, my mother, Reverend Maggie Howard, she passed about 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure you do know. Horrible experience, but she was a great person. People, everyone loved her. And the good thing about when people love you, that's the ultimate test when you die of how much you're gonna know people love you, is the turnout to your funeral. And my mom, I can proudly say, had a great funeral during COVID. Um, it was a hard experience, people. It's still one that is not easy for me to discuss, but we live, we learn, we grow, we become better people, we become stronger people. That's the word I'm looking for, and I have definitely become that. So Mother's Day weekend is this weekend, this Sunday. My mother has a mother, and her name is Carrie Wise. I should have actually tagged her in this broadcast. I probably will. Carrie Wise is 75, 80 years old. My grandmother is old. She has lived her life and, in her twilight years. She is, I guess I would say, like most older people in her twilight years, she knows the end is coming and she's managing the best she can. Now, my grandmother and I became aware of a honoree banquet that's being had by, if I'm correct, the family of Sean Stratford, a local funeral home owner on Staten Island. And I may be incorrect. Forgive me if I am. I should have probably put more research into that before I actually had this talk, people. But it's not really that deep because I don't really care for Sean Stratford too much. I had problems with the Stratford funeral home because of the things they did with regard to the burial of my mother, hiding books, trying to strong arm us for payments. And this really happened, people. People like to call me a liar, but I have to be the most honest liar on Staten Island because every word I'm saying, I can show concrete proof of what I'm saying is valid. I actually got strong armed for several $1,000s 12 hours before my mother was to be buried by the Stratford Funeral Home, who insisted I bring them $5,000 or they wouldn't even push my mother's carriage through the street. Now, some people might say that's business, and I do understand that, but people, it really wasn't business. Um, this guy was just incredibly fake. This guy was fake. The worst experience I had was going to the Stratford Funeral Home, and I truly, 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 truly regret Debbie Rose ever gave me that reference. They were horrible. They were completely fake. They were pathological liars. They stole and hid my mother's property for months, making me and my sister chase it, only to finally mail it off to my grandmother maybe 5 or 6 months later without the knowledge of either one of us. So I found out that my mom was going to be honored this week. And people, I have been one to never rob Reverend Howard of an honor she deserved. This was the problem I had with Lamont Allen. See, Lamont Allen lies and tells everyone that the banquet for Reverend Howard was canceled because of Clayton, and that's not the truth. Lamont Allen actually canceled the banquet of Reverend Howard in conjunction with the executive level members of her church because I told them that it was wrong of them to try to do this and not include her mother. And that's the honest truth. But Lamont Allen has told this lie on Clayton Howard for about 2 years, saying that the reason the church didn't have this banquet was because of me. People, character is something that you do not develop. A character is something you develop. It's not something that people are born with. Some people are born to be blessed with excellent characters, but a lot of people aren't. It's something you gain through life experience and being around the right people. People, Lamont Allen is a man of incredibly low character. He's a pathological liar. Now, people might say that I'm attacking him. I'm not attacking him. I'm simply telling you the truth. Just because he sits in the seat formerly held by Reverend Howard does not mean he is the same person. It does not mean he has the same godly spirit. It does not mean he has the same godly intent. He doesn't. This guy is a sick path. Defamation and slander is making untruthful accusations about someone that can hurt their social credibility, their financial credibility, that it can damage them. But the main principle behind defamation and slander is it has to be a lie. People, I don't come on these broadcasts when I do because I try not to speak about that church because the truth is, people, me speaking about this place is not going to make it any better because the person in charge of it is a horrible person. Until the executives of this institution see this man as incompetent, there's nothing I can do. So the only thing I could do, and I realized this, was to step back and allow God to take me on my own journey. And if he brings me back to Stapleton Church one day, then so be it. Because one thing that can be said, people, is I was a strong male additional asset to that church, people. And I can speak, and people, I can show bank receipts. I personally rebuilt the driveway of Stapleton Church, people. I used to pay money out my pocket to fix it, people. There's no other men in that church that used to do that, but they will talk dirt about Reverend Howard's son. But they won't tell you how Reverend Howard's son spent thousands of dollars the week she died to repair that church that Stapleton Church has never paid back. They will not tell you that. They will not tell you the thousands of dollars Reverend Howard's son donated because they've never paid it back in an attempt to help them keep her programs running because everyone hated Reverend Carter so much no one wanted to work. So her son stepped in and was paying the workers for weeks to work and keep these institutions going to feed the community. Ladies and gentlemen, the problem when you deal with petty people is you can't expect a petty person to be any more than they actually are. Now, I'm sure that Lamont Allen was made aware that my mother, the woman who gave birth to me, was being honored this week, people. But Lamont Allen is such a petty, fake, pathological liar and degenerate that not only has he not bothered to tell me, he didn't even bother to tell the mother of Reverend Howard. Now, here's my principle, ladies and gentlemen. You may not like me. I'm outspoken. I'm incredibly aggressive. I've been rude at times. I get that. But here's the thing, people. With us all being human beings, the woman is still my mother. She's still my mother, regardless of anyone who doesn't like me. You too, Victor Brown. See, people, 5 months ago, I made a challenge to Victor Brown, telling Victor Brown to clear my name and clear my mother's name. Why did I do that, people? Because, see, Victor Brown allowed a young woman to go into his church and lie and tell hundreds of people that I had an order of protection. My mother had an order of protection against me. She embarrassed my mother, people. She lied through her teeth. My mother never had an order of protection against her. And even if my father had been diagnosed as a schizophrenic, that was something that she should have kept private. She shouldn't have tried to put it out there so she could embarrass my mother and me, people. That's what Francina Evans really did by putting that information out there. Everyone wants to overlook that because Reverend Howard is dead. And it's kind of easy to play things off when people are dead like they don't matter. But the truth is, the dead matter just as much as the living because the living are there still loving the dead. And when you do things to hurt the dead, you hurt the living. And that's what Francina Evans did. But hatred and bigotry and just fakeness is so predominant on Staten Island, and everyone has tended to overlook that. So the point of my broadcast here today is not even for myself, ladies and gentlemen. It's for the mother of Reverend Howard. It's for Carrie Wise. Now, this Stratford family pretends that they love Reverend Howard. They want to honor Reverend Howard. But they would have a banquet where they wouldn't even be decent enough people to contact the living mother of this woman and make sure that she had some say or even a free ticket to the banquet that they're having for Reverend Howard. Now, people, someone was smart enough to call Joanne Cook, but Joanne Cook ain't Reverend Howard's mother. As much as I love Miss Cook, I have to tell you the truth. Joanne Cook is not Reverend Howard's mother. Joanne Cook did not give birth to Reverend Howard. Carrie Wise did. Carrie Wise should have been consulted or called about her daughter being honored anywhere. But see, people, the truth is that this church that is honoring my mother, they only threw my mother up there hoping that some of y'all pay a couple $100s more for some tickets. Because that's how Staten Island works. They don't honor people, not everybody. Let me correct that. Some people do honor people with the genuine intent to put forth the work they do. My mom was like that. She honor people because she believed they did work. Asked about it, people, I used to just be like, just honor them. Come on. She's like, no, Clayton, I need the spirit to tell me. And she would generally put a lot of consideration and reflection into the people she put to honor. But people, I don't think that these people did the same thing, because what kind of decent, respectable Christian organization would honor a woman for Mother's Day and not contact her family? See, people, here's the truth, people. Staten Island runs from me because I speak against the corrupt organization that is Staten Island, which is the DA's office, and Victor Brown. Victor Brown is an incredibly powerful man on Staten Island. These ministers, these punk black ministers, are afraid of this man. Now, I don't see how God can put the spirit of God could be in a messenger and people be afraid of him. I don't understand that. I think people were afraid of Satan. I don't think people were afraid of Jesus. I don't think people were afraid of Paul. I don't think they were afraid of John, Luke, or Matthew. I don't think these men were able to enforce themselves through fear. But it appears that's how Pastor Victor Brown does, because Pastor Victor Brown has managed to turn most of the Christian community against me because I've called him a liar. But see, here's the thing, people. I don't care. Because one thing people don't understand is that Reverend Howard was in a weak woman, so she didn't raise a weak son. So even the people who feel they may try to honor my mother and not invite me, people, it's never going to be valid because you're not inviting her family. What type of corrupt, biased, crooked organization honors a dead woman and doesn't invite her children and family? Clearly, this church does. And clearly, Stapleton Church, the church that should be loyal to its dead pastor, who literally gave her life force to the low-level people in that church. And anyone who heard me call you low-level, forgive me. But I have to call you low-level if this woman gave all of her energy to you and you betray her. I have to call you low-level Carisha Jordan when you steal my mother's email contacts and try to pretend like you didn't. I have to call you low-level Denise Grady when you actually help a woman who's been stalking me for 3 years because you was mad I wouldn't loan your grandmother daughter money to pay for school. And people, this is a text message fact. People, I have to feel the way I feel when things happen and these Christian, hardworking, ethical people lie through their teeth. See, people, I might not have been the best when my mother was alive, but one thing about grief is grief and drama change you. And unfortunately, people, I have had so much grief and drama over the last few years that it has definitely made me a far more insightful person. And I see things a lot clearer than I once saw them when I was angry and just trying to get this over. I see them for what they are, people. People are evil. They are manipulative, they are false, and they have one agenda, and that agenda is themselves. That is no different when it comes to a Christian organization or a business organization. They are for the agenda of the organization. And in worst case scenarios, when these people don't have enough integrity to at least be in favor of the agenda, they're for themselves. And those people are even worse because at least those people are worse because at least the people who are fake for the organization have the organization in mind, the greater good of the people of the organization. The people who are for themselves are only for themselves, which means me, you, or nobody matters. There are people like that. One of those people is Victor Brown. Victor Brown is a manipulative, pathological liar. He is a man who has done everything in his power to manipulate my mother's connections and even her church into trying to destroy me. People, this is definitively proven by the fact that Victor Brown spent from, I believe it was March to maybe June of 2023, I would say gaming my mother's former assistant pastor, Buford Brown, into divulging fictitious information he knew about me so they could use it to have the Staten Island DA's office investigate me. Now, people, here's the truth. I was a street kid. I did things, I'm not proud of them. I've grown into a different person. Life and circumstances have changed me that I have been blessed to be away from that element for years, people, at least a decade. But people, sometimes your past will be your undoing, and people will use things they find in your past to hurt you because they don't have anything in your future. So they got to dig back as far as they can to try to grab anything they can to come after you. Ladies and gentlemen, do you really think if I was a liar, I wouldn't be in jail by now for all the things I've said about the DA's office and Victor Brown? People, here's the truth, people. Although my style may be somewhat aggressive, people, I'm telling the truth. And I tell the truth today when I say this, is that The life of Reverend Howard was one that was lived with piety, honesty, and truthfulness. This woman put every ounce she had of herself into helping the community and furthering her purpose for God and humanity. The biggest disappointment I have seen since the passing of my mother is to see how few people are truly like that. These pastors are liars, people. They have no God in them. They have no integrity in them, people. They work for themselves. They do things to benefit themselves. And this church that calls itself to be honoring Reverend Howard as an honorary benefit that wouldn't have had the character and decency to contact her mother, people, it only shows you proof that they're doing it for themselves. Now, many people may notice that I mentioned Lamont Allen and Stapleton Church in the beginning of this broadcast. I'm not going all over the place, people. I am on a far path. The reason I mention them is for this. Reverend Howard was your pastor. She was your teacher. She was your shepherd. Lamont Allen, she was your I forgot the damn word. Oh my God. You're her protege. She is your not successor. What is the word, people? I'm having one of those mornings. I was slipped. But she was his teacher. She was his Yoda, as I would say. And he may try to front and pretend like that not the case. But people, I saw Lamont up there with my mother. I saw him in the Bible study. She's definitely responsible for what he is now. And me, because I was raised this way. I don't know how he was raised, even though I do believe his mother to be an honorable woman. I know his mother. So I don't think she raised her son to be a sucker like he's turning out to be. But this is just what he is. I don't think his mother raised him to be an unhonorable man and not to honor this woman. But people, Lamont has dishonored Reverend Howard by lying on her, by robbing her. And what I mean by robbing her is not financially robbing her, because I can't prove that yet. I mean by robbing her of honors, by robbing her of recognition. He has robbed my mother of work she put in her life that he has tried to claim for himself. And people, that's where he made Clayton Howard an enemy. I may be hard spoken, people. I may be rough at times, people, but I'm real and I don't lie. The reason that none of us deal with Lamont Allen is because Lamont Allen is a liar. So to anyone who is truly has love for my late mother, you should know today that Stapleton Church does not represent her interests. Stapleton Church can't represent her interests because no one there is like her from Stapleton Church. Those people are fake and they are for themselves. They don't even have enough regard for her family. How can they have any regard for her? They don't check on her mother. How can they be checking on her? They don't check on her brother. How can they be checking on her? They totally betrayed her son. How can they be checking on her? Those are the things you need to ask yourself, people. With regard to these people who think they are honoring Reverend Howard, again, people, I am no one. I have never tried to stop any honorary ceremony for my mother. So you do know that I will not be there, of course. You did not take the time to invite me, so I won't go considering someone else invited me. I don't believe in being an invited third party to my mother's own event. These people should have been wise enough to call me because Sean Stratford has my number. But I will wish them the best. I hope that they achieve their objective using my mother's name to sell some additional tickets. This is why I'm advertising for them because I'm hoping that the people who hear this realize that this banquet is going on for my mother. And they give this church that is trying to use her name to make some more money for some tickets, help them out. Give them a few extra bucks. If they didn't have enough consideration to at least tell the family of Reverend Howard what's going on, I, as Reverend Howard's son, will have enough consideration to give them what they want, to use my mother's name to try to make some money. But if they get a decent ticket price, the minimum they should do is make a small donation to Stapleton Church. Because truthfully speaking, if they love her, they'll do something for her church. They won't jack her name and then do nothing for her church. Um, and that's my story, people. That's what I have to say this morning. So on behalf of Reverend Howard, as her son, as someone who truly loved her, as someone who truly fought for her, as someone who truly gave his last to make sure she was buried like the queen she was buried, I state what I state today. If anyone disagrees with what I'm saying, I challenge one member of Stapleton Church to prove to me what they did financially or in any way to bury my mother. I challenge one of you, Denise Grady, Carisha Jordan, Lamont Allen, Lamont Allen, I challenge you to show me what you did to bury my mother, how you honored my mother after. I challenge you, brother, to show me how you do it. I challenge Lamont Allen to prove to me one positive thing he did to honor my mother, even after she died, but especially before he found out he became the pastor at that church. See, people, here's the truth. Lamont Allen didn't even leave his house when my mother died. He never came to the church to help people. That nigga didn't care. The only time he cared is when he realized he was in position to get the old income stream. Now, here's the truth, people. Stapleton don't have a huge income stream. It's a small black church. But to a bum nigga like that, people, it's something. And it's something that he could finally come up. People, I don't want to speak badly about this man. At one point, I had a lot of love for him. But that love has since dissipated into, I'll be honest, a dislike that goes deep, people. He dishonored my mother. He dishonored me, people. Lamont Allen cost me tens of thousands of dollars of problems, people. And I'm not going to get into it, but Lamont Allen has been a horrible snake to me. And I'm okay with that, people. Because in that realization of his fakeness, I speak a truth about him that I will continue to speak, that he is not the representative of Reverend Howard. He's not the representative of God, people. He should never be sitting in the seat of that church. That guy is a pathological liar. He does not deserve to be pastor of that church, people. The church is damn near falling apart since Allen became the pastor, because the truth is he doesn't have the spiritual character to bring the church together. Honestly speaking, neither does Buford Carter. But see, the least thing we could say about Buford Carter is he's never had it. He's always tried to be a dividing factor. But when you have a strong leaders can't be divided by weakness or pettiness. And the reason Lamont Allen is the church that my mother built is separated is because Lamont is weak. See, he can't bring the people together because he's too fake for the people who's on Reverend Carter's side to ever believe that he's going to be genuine. And the people who are on his side are people who are just related to him or sellouts to my mother, because he's the pastor. So technically speaking, he has the authority. And this is the corny little politics of small black churches, people. But luckily, Reverend Howard had a son who's intelligent and who's trying to literally write his way up out the hood right now, because I took some heavy losses with Francina Evans. So this is why you have not seen me as much in the charitable space on Staten Island. But people, that's about to change. And I can make you one promise, is that the voice of Reverend Howard will be far more vocal, because it is not Stapleton Church. Although my language may be vulgar, although I can honestly say I am not proud of some of my content. People, I was angry. If I could honestly impart on you the seriousness of my situation, you would understand how this scheming, lying pastor was doing everything he could to destroy me because he was sexually attracted to my ex-girlfriend. People, I have been through the fire for the last year, but it's okay because I'm out. And I wouldn't say that I'm clear of it, people. They're still around me. They're still trying to burn me, but they're going to have a hell of a hard time because I'm not the same person I used to be. It is Mother's Day weekend, so I want to wish all mothers again happy Mother's Day. And to again, this organization that thinks that they are so holy and righteous that they can honor a dead woman without biting her family, I wish you the best. I wish your fake pastor the best. I wish your fake organization the best. And I even wish your fake event the most success. That's why I'm marketing it. On behalf of Operation Rocket, in the name of my late mother, I am Clayton, asking you one question. How can anyone claim that they really love this woman and throw an honorary banquet for her and not call her mother? People, that is like the sickest thing they could ever do. But people, what do I know? I'm just her only son who happens to watch this and supposed to sit back and say nothing. Whatever. On behalf of Justice and Operation Rock, people, and in the name of my late mother, we have to be better, because she was better. She wasn't that type of person. She wasn't fake. She wasn't a liar. She wasn't someone who would allow her pettiness to keep and propel a war against someone that did nothing to her, like Lamont Allen. People, we got to pray for better, people, and that's what I'm doing. I've prayed for better, and I believe better's going to come. I believe this guy is going to eventually be replaced. But until then, people, we keep advocating, we keep building, we keep getting ready for the future to come.